So here it is, the Mirage F1C, highly anticipated, and on paper has basically everything you would need from a top tier plane. You got two of the best heat seekers in the game. Magic 1s, not Magic 2s like on the dev server, unfortunately, but for the safety of the game it's probably a good thing. It has the new and improved 530Fs. Good range, on paper extremely strong. You got a lot of countermeasures and you have a pulse Doppler radar. So what is the problem with this plane? Well, the problem is it's fucking French. And it pains me to say this, because every time you see a French plane that's potentially gonna be good, it's gonna be added too late, it's dead on arrival, or it's just straight up bad. And this is again a plane that is dead on arrival. We get an F4E on our 6, and we are gonna be reversing it. But look how much I'm struggling with him. The F4E is still pretty maneuverable for a Phantom, but it is still a Phantom. I barely get the guns on here. I barely have the ability to get the guns on. I'm going 400 at this point. If these other 7 people were not coming in to run me down right now, I would have died regardless. This thing is not very fast. It goes about the same top speed as a MiG-21 bis. Does it accelerate like a MiG-21 bis? No, I honestly do not know what to compare it to. Yes, going head on with an EJK as well as an F4J is probably gonna not bode very well for you. But the acceleration is something I would compare to a goddamn Jaguar, which is not something that's very great to talk about in terms of acceleration. So maybe the 530Fs will save this thing. They do not. They are extremely flawed. They can give you nice shots just like that one and like the one I'm gonna show you right here. But very often, and more often than not, you will not actually get the missile off, or it will just not track altogether. It doesn't matter if you are in pulse Doppler mode or just in normal mode, because the pulse Doppler mode is nice, sure. The problem is that the missiles do not really care. You can shoot this missile, or you lock someone up, you turn your missile on afterwards, and by the time your missile is ready to fire, they are too close to actually fire at them, because these missiles at closer ranges are not very good. They're very heavy, they're not very fast off the rails, and they don't track instantly. So if they close the gap too quickly, and if they notice you in time, you basically don't have the time to actually get the missile off. And if you shoot it anyway, 9 out of 10 times it will just kind of pancake into the ground. It will not track, it will just go into a random direction, and if they are low to the ground, which we'll demonstrate versus Lich King here in a second. I will shoot at him now and then we'll come back a little bit later. I'll just speed it up for you. You might just find yourself not getting a lock altogether. The circle very often doesn't even give you a full 2 circles. Very often you just get 1 or 1.5, and if you even try shooting it at that point, it will straight up not track. The acceleration and the top speed are one thing. Is it maneuverable? Also a big fat no. But look at this lock. I have him perfectly locked up, I try to shoot, and please pay attention to my rudder in these clips, especially in the head-ons, and you'll see plenty of that later on. That guy's gonna get stolen, but I'll cut it out for your convenience. The one thing is nice though, that you have a lot of countermeasures. Yeah, that's it. You were expecting me to say something else. It has good amount of countermeasures, and the magics are pretty decent, but in general, the best feature of this plane is that it looks pretty good. Yeah, I really have to think here. The best feature is just the looks of this plane. And the fact that it doesn't feel horrible. So normally that's what, like with the Mirage 3E. The Mirage 3E is an absolutely appallingly bad plane. Or at least it used to be at a higher BR range. But it also just feels bad to fly. This thing at least feels like a plane. It has pretty decent retention. The slats look nice. The spoilerons look nice. It all kind of looks nice. But really I don't have much good things to say about this thing. It's all just so below average that you will find yourself dying very often to things you just cannot control. You have the DEFAs, which aren't great at high speed. The plane itself isn't good at low speed. Already a bad combination. At high speed you don't have a rudder, so it doesn't help the fact that DEFAs are already pretty bad at higher speeds. It doesn't turn very well, it's extremely heavy. And if you have to dogfight basically anyone that's not a Phantom, you are likely just gonna die. And even a Phantom, because it just retains its energy so much better, will just stall your ass out, come back down on top of you. And if he has any type of aim, or if he even has ammo, well, he's just gonna kill you. That's just how it is. There's not much you're gonna do about it. And if you have a J7, which you will run into a lot, an F5E, which you will run into a lot, because people are right now grinding the A10, people are grinding the J8, on which I will make a video pretty soon here. But man, this plane is an absolute chore to fly. The only good thing I can say about it, really, like a thing that stands out, I've survived a couple of hits with it. And normally when I get hit, I am absolutely boned, I'm dead, and I think a lot of you guys can relate to this. You will not survive a single shot. Not sure what that guy was doing, but hey, I'll just call that a kill. So, how do you fly this thing? And I went out of my way, or actually I didn't go out of my way to do it, to get the absolute best footage possible. Because it would be unfair. The YouTube it's very easy to look good on YouTube. It's very easy to make a plane look good on YouTube. I've been having an absolutely appalling time. And me telling you how to fly this while giving you the best examples possible doesn't really do this thing service. It's not fair, and I think you should have a decent representation of this vehicle. And if it's not very good, then well, I can show you a very good clip, but at the end of the day, that is not what you should be striving for. You should be trying to fly this thing a little bit opportunistic, supportive, and you kind of just fly this thing like you are wishing to be in a different plane. That's the real thing here. And I want you to pay very close attention to the rudder and just the way this plane behaves. Not so much what it looks like and the way it flies through the air, but actually compare it to what you see to when you're flying on a different plane. Look at the G's, look at the rudder, look at me trying to get guns on target. I am pretty rusty, yes, I haven't played in a month, but half this shit is just stuff I cannot control. On top of that, I'm still rusty, which obviously doesn't help the situation, but this plane is very, I don't know how to describe it. I'd rather just go and describe to you what I'm doing, what I'm feeling at the moment, that you're seeing. Just what I usually do, and not give it a generic overview, because with a plane that's not very good and you really have to play in the moment and adapt to the situation that's going on around you, telling you what you should be doing is not going to be very helpful. So, what do? We like to take head-ons with this thing, because that's basically the only thing you're going to get, and that's a showcase of how that missile pulls at closer ranges. Of course, that's at like 1 kilometer. I'm not expecting many SRH missiles to pull into that, but look at this one, for example. I'm gonna have this guy locked up, and look how long it takes for that missile to actually start tracking. And then look at how long it takes for that missile to actually reach the target. I locked that guy up at 4.5 kilometers, and I didn't launch it until like 1.5. If he was looking at me and trying to launch back at me, I wouldn't have done anything. I would have to break off before him, because the AIM-7F is going to reach me before my missile reaches him, and even if it doesn't, I'm probably going to end up in a trade. You are at a disadvantage in terms of missile jousting in this thing, because it takes you so long to get a lock, it takes you so long to get the missile to the target, and by the time you get the missile to the target, you are likely already dead, way before your missile even gets near him. So we magic the first guy here. I don't feel very bad about turning after the first guy with my entire team around, because their team is on the other side of the map. So right now I'm just looking around and I'm trying to see who I can go for. I'm trying to see if I can lock someone up at longer ranges. He's shooting an R24 at me probably there. So I lock him up, and that missile is just kind of not pulling in too much. He dodges the radar and the missile goes nowhere. And I keep looking around, because it's very easy to get jumped in this thing. So if you get overly aggressive, if you lose too much speed, well, you're kind of gonna be in a pickle. At least you have the countermeasures to help you out, but you really just have to look around. Where are the least enemies off the map? Where are the least kind of engagements happening, so I can come in and third party people, because that's the main thing you're gonna be doing. J7 is popping flares, well, magic gets fooled, and here we get an optimal launch on the MiG-23 that's approximately going 1 kilometer a year maybe. Of course a 530 is gonna pull into that. I would have killed him with an AIM-9B if it was our last pack. So, he is down. J7 is now on R6, but PL5s are not that hard to dodge. They are basically cannon rounds, they fly straight at you. And as long as you are not like 4 to 5 kilometers ahead of him, those missiles are not that much of a problem. They have insane range and they can catch you off guard, but if you are paying attention to them, especially once they are still burning, they're pretty easy to dodge and they shouldn't be much of a problem. The J7E in itself, however, is an absolute nuisance. It out-accelerates you, it out-turns you, it has better retention than you. And the top speed is basically the same. So what are you gonna do versus that thing if you are outrunning it? Well, I'll tell you what you are gonna be doing. You're gonna eat a tree. And that's basically the only thing you can do. Of course, when you third party, not the biggest problem in the world. But again, I could have killed that guy in key 10. Please don't do that. Don't bring props to top tier. No one finds it funny except you. But man, this plane is an absolute chore to fly, and you really have to get lucky with the teams as well. In the first 10 games, I got 3 wins, and that was in a squad. And normally, well, 33% is kind of far off what I'm used to. I'm not used to winning 1 every 3 games. And now it's kind of back up to about 65%. But man, these teams are absolutely horrible, and it's really hit or miss. And in this thing, if you are flying a plane that's hit or miss, if you are flying a plane that's team dependent, a team dependent plane at the top tier is probably the most frustrating thing you can experience. Because you cannot actually carry. You cannot impact the match in a meaningful way. So you're just gonna be flying around with your dick in your hand, hoping you manage to get something out of that match. And don't even get me started on the stock performance of this thing, because then you don't even have a decent missile set. You got the magics, which is okay, which is alright. But your stock performance, together with stock defas, is the most appalling loadout I have used at top tier. And of course the fact that now stock vehicles have some kind of loadout is great. It's a fantastic little thing. But that doesn't make this plane any more enjoyable. Of course the Mirage 3E stock was more painful because you didn't have flares, you didn't have missiles, you only have the 30 mils, and you were facing FREs every single game. That doesn't make this thing feel much better. I compare it to like the MiG-23M on release, and I'd rather fly the MiG-23M from release than this thing if it wasn't for the missiles. Because I do prefer these missiles over the R60s that it had back then and the R23, but the flight performance is honestly better than the MiG-23M on release. And if you have flown a MiG-23M on release, it's not very great. And very often this will happen to you as well. That's a teammate. It's fantastic. And of course when you open his profile, guess what? He has the brr title, he pre-ordered the A10. And that's the kind of person that manages to team kill me. Fantastic. A for effort. And this guy, he's climbing at higher altitude. And I'm trying to lock him. Look at this. I'm not in pulse Doppler mode and he's at pretty high altitude. I'm pitching up to him. And I still barely get a full lock. So I shoot the missile at him. Eventually, he notches me, he chaffs. So it doesn't matter if I use pulse Doppler or not. He ends up fooling the missile pretty easily. Of course, it's pretty easy to dodge a missile when you see it at that range. So that's not so much a dig at the 530. I just chase this guy in the hope that he tries to run away from me, does something to me. And he does. He kind of gets stuck in the fight and he gets killed by the J7. FRE gets locked up pretty far away, no real use shooting it at this range. So I'm just going to break the lock and I'm going to change it. And I'm going to try to lock down this F5. So I get a full lock in and look at this track. Perfect track on the F5C. Or F5E, I'm not sure at this point. It looks like it goes for the other guy and it just misses both of them. And then it breaks lock once it's completely flown past. So I lock him up with a magic. He's not really paying attention. Almost managed to get a double kill in. But I managed to just miss my rounds. Because I couldn't lead very properly. And now I have to dive away. And the problem with that is, if those were different planes, if those were planes I can't actually get away from, well, you just kind of die. F4E is dogfighting Razor. He's busy. Razor cuts his throttle to basically remove any heat signature. And then I missile him. Missile doesn't get fooled by the afterburner of Razor, and it was a pretty safe shot. So right here, Razor is getting locked, so I start chaffing in the nose of the F4J. Manages to actually fool his radar because the lock got broken. Try to get a shot in. We don't manage to get one. And we are going to be leaving here because the F4J is much faster than us. He's already going faster than us. So chasing him now is an absolute waste of time. And our team isn't looking very good. And you already know what that means. If a team isn't looking very good at the end of the video, it's probably going to be a carry. And you are exactly right. Probably you would have noticed if you looked at the time bar at the bottom. But nonetheless, we are going to be trying to carry here. But it's a carry against F5Cs, which is why it's at the end of the video. This was basically a full down tier. All the footage you get with this plane is going to be filler. I can show you a 7 kill game, I can show you a 6 kill game. But at the end of the day, that doesn't make this plane very good. It's very unforgiving, and it's not because you make a mistake. It's simply someone else decides you have to die. And if someone decides you have to die, you are either completely countered, locked out of the match, or you just die outright, depending on the plane that's on your 6. So, everyone's going pretty slow here. I managed to kill one F5 and we have a teammate in the middle. He just went down and now it's 3v4. 3 F5s, 2 F5Cs, 1 F5E and an F4J. Well, the F104 is not going to be doing much. It's an F104G, I believe. Razor gets shot down. I go head on with the F5C. I try to dodge and I just can't pull out because I'm compressing going Mach 1. Dodge the second guy. And we are now going to be looking to try an RTB. And I'm sorry, I kind of let this F104 die. But if I go in right now, I will die and then you will die as well because it's 1v4. Razor is RTB with one wing. He is going to be landing. I am trying to get out of here. F5C that's chasing me right now will RTB soon enough. So after landing and repairing, both of me and Razor are fully back up fuel, ammo and damage. And Razor gets a blind hunt on him. So I try to stay low here in the hope that the F4J or the F5 goes for Razor and then I can pitch up and shoot him down. The thing is, they were also staying on the deck and they were probably trying to spike Razor from below. And they basically countered my entire idea. But I still have Razor right on top of me, which is very helpful. And now I need to make sure that I don't get killed by this F5 or the F4J that's coming in from the blind spot. Looking at the radar. Didn't get radar pinged. I saw pre-flaring a little bit. Cut the afterburner for a second. F5 goes head on with the F104S. Gets gunned down and the F4 tries to stick a dogfight with me. And look how little I'm actually outturning this guy. This is an F4J. It doesn't have a similar flight performance anymore to the F4E. It's an absolute boat. And yet, I struggle to get out of his guns. He's on fire. He's completely fucked up right now. And look how close he gets to getting his guns on me. Not something you like seeing. Of course I will win the prolonged fight when he's on fire, when he's losing half his plane. But take it with a grain of salt. I'm struggling with an F4J. It's really painful and I cannot describe it to you. Especially stock. And here comes another F5 and I said to Razor, can I try to lock this guy with a missile and see if he does anything? The answer is no. It doesn't get anything. So I tried to just full send a dogfight. Just for educational purposes. I don't recommend doing this. I was on his 6 because he dodged my head on at the start. So I start off with a pretty decent position. And we are both pretty low speed. So I can kind of ride his ass. And I have the backup of Razor right next to me. I'm not going to get a shot in here. So I managed to just shoot off a magic. Didn't really expect to kill him, but in the hope that he doesn't have his flag key bound, maybe it would have happened. But right now he's too slow to do anything. And it's just a matter of trying to get my guns on him. If I had missed that shot, I probably would have died. If Razor wasn't right next to me. And that's the sad reality of this plane. Absolutely dead on arrival. Could have been alright if it got added before the pulse Doppler meta. Before the SRH meta even. But even then, it simply isn't that good. At least it has retention. It doesn't feel like a Mirage and it's definitely one of those unique planes that doesn't feel like anything you've flown before. But it's not necessarily a good thing in this regard. Because it's just there's so much wrong with it. First of all, it's French of course. And just the combination of a no turn, no acceleration and no top speed makes you a sitting duck at basically any speed, any moment of the game. As long as you are not fully down tiered. And you're not facing any 11.3s, which might happen here and there. But at 11.3, if this thing does not get changed, this thing is absolutely dead on arrival. If this plane gets changed, expect me to make another video on it. It will be in the description or in the comment section, and it will be pinned at the top. I crit the F5C, I try to turn in, and guess what? I don't manage to get my nose on him whatsoever. I was going a little bit faster and of course I have the worst turning circle on top of that, making it so that he will basically end up behind me. Well, anytime I try that. He's starting to shoot missiles at me. They're only AIM 9Es and at this point it's basically done deal. He is crit It's 2v1, but he's gonna try the RTB, he's gonna land, and then Razor is gonna strafe him, ending the game in 4 kills for his boat. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's good to be back, and I'll see you all probably tomorrow with either an F104 ASA video or maybe the J8 and perhaps even the A10 Thunderbolt, because yes, I will be covering that thing as well.